Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're taking a look at the Frame Arms 1/100 scale Vulture, and just to be exactly precise, this is the RE version of the Vulture, which if you're planning on getting this kit, you do want to be sure you get the RE version. That means it's got the improved inner frame, although I will say that even with the improved frame, I still find with these Frame Arms kits, always the Architect frame gets a little bit loosey-goosey, so you're going to want to use some glue or something to just at least tighten up some of the joints anyway. But the point is that you have a little bit improved range of articulation with the new Architect frame that's included with the RE edition of this kit and other kits in the Frame Arms edition line. So I think in most cases, if you're buying online, you're probably going to be getting the RE version anyway, but it's always good just to check, and especially if you're at a store or something, they might have stock from like way back before Kotobukiya was making the RE versions or something like that. So just check to be sure when you're buying the kits. And speaking of buying the kits, big shout out to USA Gundam Store for sponsoring this review. If you do want to buy some different Kotobukiya kits, or of course Gunpla or anything else, you can check out the link to the store. They're down below. Use that coupon code there, ZakuAurelius 10, and save 10% on everything there on their store. But yeah, other than the frame being a little bit loose in some areas, it's a pretty cool kit, very nicely detailed, and pretty simple and pretty cheap as far as Frame Arms kits go. It's on the lower end at 3,800 yen. I do like the color scheme of this, and as I mentioned in the unboxing video, there are a couple different versions of the Vulture out there, so it's worth checking them out if you're maybe sort of into the design but maybe not quite, so you can see what the other versions have to offer. But this one I think is pretty cool. It does transform into a sort of vulture bird, of course, so we'll take a look at that later on in the review as well. But let's get into it first, just talk about the accessories that the kit comes with. Alright, so for hand options, we've got these open hands there. We've also got a set of closed fists, very nice, and a set of just holding hands here. So that's pretty good, 3 different sets of hands, but if you wanted any trigger finger hands, you'll have to get an extra set of option parts or something like that if you wanted to give this some sort of gun. This doesn't have any sort of gun though, so not really particularly necessary. Then we have is sword, which here it is in the collapsed form, which I suppose you could use like that, but it then just fold out like that, extend to its full length like that, and it looks pretty cool, I've got to say. You also have this piece here, which can be plugged onto the back, or pretty much anywhere. It shows it on the back, but you can plug it pretty much anywhere onto the kit. It's just this little connector that will allow you to plug the sword onto there. If you want to connect it onto the back where it shows in the manual, you kind of have to move the hair up out of the way to get up to that little plug there. That can be just plugged onto the back like that, or you could plug it on in its collapsed form as well, but that is pretty cool. And then we've got a couple of extra little clear parts here. Now these are basically to act as like kickstands for when it's in the bird mode or the vulture mode or whatever, so we'll see these a bit more here in a bit. And then the last thing is just a different face option part. So with this face that we've got on here at the moment, it's actually really cool how you've got like the pink part, then that clear blue part there for like the eyes and going around the front of the face as well, and this little purple part set inside there. So part separation on the face there, it looks really, really cool. But if you wanted that to be just one solid part and you wanted to mask it or paint it differently or some way, I don't know, if you wanted to just have a different option for that, we do have this other face part here, which is just one solid piece all for that, so you just got that as an option for something, I guess. So let's just quickly go through some of the articulation for this. Then this hair at the back will move around. You can kind of rotate that side to side. It's actually plugged on via a tiny little ball joint, but it's just the space in there is so small, it's not really going to be able to move around too much. You can like put it out a little bit like that, but it's like on the verge of popping out of there, so you have to be a little bit careful. Basically, you're just going to have mostly just rotation, but a little bit of extra ball joint action there if you want to get that a little bit more. But ultimately, the head will go up to about there, which is not too bad, and then down to there, something like that, which is only kind of like slightly looking down further than just looking straight. So, but anyway, moving on down here to the stomach section. Now, this is the area that often gets kind of very loose. Here you have this part, a really nice forward and back bend there, and then actually can go even more because it's actually kind of 2 joints in there or at the stomach section, so you've got kind of a little bit of this action there. Side to side, however, not going to be a thing. It's not going to work at all like that, but you can rotate it here pretty much 360 degrees if you so wanted to. The hair gets a little bit in the way kind of to move that, but anyway, up top here at the shoulders, you can rotate those all the way around to the front, so not going to be any issues there. It just does kind of tend to pop out of the ball joint there a little bit easily, so just be a little bit careful about that. Upward movement at the shoulders, if you kind of mind this clear spike poking it in the face there, will move up to about 90 degrees, so not too far upwards there. Then just rotation here at the top of the arm, a double joint there at the elbow to give you a pretty full bend, about as far as it's going to be able to go without these parts clashing into each other. And then the wrist also has a joint that will allow you to move that forward and back like that. That's just on a polycap there, and then you can rotate the hand here. It's not on a ball joint, it's just on a peg into a polycap there. So rotation and forward and back bend like that is going to be what you've got there for the hands. While we're here, how you work this claw weapon here is you basically just remove that off the front of the arm, and then for the hand, you've got to remove the cover on the back of the hand, and you'll replace that with the claw part, like that on here. I think we better use the fists actually. Yeah, it seems it's not going to work on the open hand, so you've got to use that on the fist hand. But anyway, you can put that on the fist hand like that to work as these claw weapons there attached onto the back of his hand. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, continuing on with the articulation back down here to the waist section. It, he, she, I don't know. But it doesn't have any skirt armor, just has this little bit here on the front, and then the bird head there at the back, which is again for the transformation. But the legs will go all the way out to the side, no problems there, and then all the way up to the front and back, so it's got nothing hindering the legs in that way. We got rotation here at this part at the top of the thigh area there as well. We do have a double joint in the knee, one bend there and one bend here, but moving them together at the same time, you're still only going to be able to get about 90 degrees anyway, just because of these parts just crashing into each other. Now, these parts at the top of the thighs, those spike parts fit inside of here nicely, so those just tuck away inside there, but still they're going to hit the inner part of the leg there, so you're only going to get about 90 degrees out of that knee bend, unfortunately. Down here to the ankles, they work kind of like HD Armblade Orphan's feet, how you have some rotation here, but it's only the front part. The back part doesn't rotate, that's just all fixed in there, so only the front part rotates there. So if you have the feet in like a really wide stance like that, you can do that, but the back of the feet are going to be looking a little bit weird, so that's unfortunate that they didn't make that so you could rotate those as well. But this clear blade has to fit through the back of the leg and then through these little claws at the back of the feet as well, so if you had to bend that, then that just kind of wouldn't work, so it's kind of understandable there. Otherwise, if you point the toe down like that, you can move the foot all the way up forward like that, but with the toe extended up, you can sort of move it like that, up and down. Anyway, the toe moves up and down quite a bit, and then the ankle itself moves forward and back pretty nicely as well, and of course you can extend that blade out again for the bird transformation. We'll get to that here in a moment, but I guess since that about does it for the articulation, let's just get right into the transformation right now. So the first thing is, so we got to move this part here on the head, so pull off this part here on the front. You'll notice there's two slots there, upper one and lower one. You're going to plug it back into the lower slot down here. So that basically just kind of covers up the eyes there and changes the angle of that just a little bit there on the face. And then the hair at the back, we're going to rotate that up like that, and that's basically going to become the tail of the bird. You need to equip the claws onto both hands, since those are going to now be the feet. So let me get the claw plugged in on the other hand here as well. They're going to rotate those up, and so they're just pointing straight up like so. You're going to then carefully rotate these arms around here to the front like so. You got to make sure that they're turned like this way, but the hands need to still be like that. So it's looking like that. All right. Then you're going to flip them upside down and bend those out like that. And so those are going to be the feet then there. Then basically just spread out the legs like that to be the wings and extend out the blades on each end. And then from the back of the waist, rotate that bird's head up and around like this. And essentially, there you go. That is how it's going to look. Now I mentioned the little kickstands before. Those go around here on the back of the leg. Back here, you can plug this into that so this can stand up a little bit better. It just plugs into what is originally the back of the arm, so then you can stand them up here like this. And as you guys may well know, I don't really particularly have a thing for birds when it comes to my mecha model kits, but I gotta say this is definitely actually not that bad, considering that it's basically just the mobile suit upside down doing some weird breakdancing move essentially if you look at it like for a minute. But at first glance, I mean, it does look kind of cool. If you wanted to have a sort of raven or vulture, I guess, looking big mecha suit, it's not actually half bad. And if you throw this up onto an action base and have it in some cool flying pose or something, whatever, yeah, it's relatively convincing, I think. So I can definitely see the potential here if that was something that you were looking for, or if you're looking for some sort of like mecha bird for some sort of diorama or something like that, or just something to use as like a kit bash something. Or you could add a lot more to this if you wanted to add some more like effect parts or something like that. It could be kind of cool. So I don't know, there you go. I'm actually liking this a little bit more than I expected, but I think I'm gonna put it back into its just regular robot suit form, and we'll do some more posing options with that. But first, I just want to give you guys a real quick size comparison. Here it is compared with a HD 144 scale Gundam, so you can see it's gonna be pretty close in size to that of a master grade or a 1/100 scale, a typical 100 scale mobile suit, but it's very slim, slender, so it's definitely not going to quite match the proportions. But anyway, you get an idea of the sense of the height of this. Alright guys, so I gotta say, I'm really impressed with this kit. I like it quite a bit. As I think I mentioned in the unboxing video, I'll just reiterate here, it's just that I think if you're looking to get into frame arms, if you wanted to just try out a frame arms kit, you've never built one before, I think just because of the fact that this is one of the more simpler ones, it's one of the more cheaper ones, and I think it's pretty nice compared to the other few that I've built. This one is also a pretty nice one, so if you're looking to try out a frame arms kit, and you can get your hands on this one, then I would say it's a good one that I would recommend for you guys to check out. Like with any frame arms kit, there's a lot of different options that you can do in terms of customizing this with different parts, swapping different parts from different kits, or optional parts from Kotobukiya's MSG line, or swapping parts, mixing parts with different frame arms girl kits, and all sorts of things that you can do. As for what you get in the box, it's pretty minimal. It's basically just like the sword and some hand options. It's pretty much the only options that you get, but the transformation does add something to the kit. I think if you didn't have the transformation, I might feel like it's maybe a little bit lacking, but the transformation does add a good amount of, I think, value to the kit. It's just something else that you can do with it, aside from just basically different sword poses. And I guess the claws are also pretty cool as well. It's also another cool thing that you can do with this. So a good amount of value for the price of this kit as well, so I think that's pretty awesome. And one last thing that I'll point out too is regarding seam lines. A lot of Kotobukiya kits do tend to have a lot of seam lines, even on some of the frame arms kits. But on this one, it really doesn't really have any, so there's really not a whole lot of prep work that you would have to do with this, aside from just some sanding and everything, to just get it ready for painting if you wanted to paint it, or even if you just wanted to not paint it, but just wanted to get rid of the seam lines on it. Fortunately, that's just something that you don't have to worry about at all with this kit, so it would be a pretty quick and easy one to paint up. Again, if you wanted to try painting up a frame arms kit, or, you know, even if you've already done so a few times in the past, but you wanted a kit that's pretty fun, simple, easy enough to paint up and make it look really cool, then this is definitely one that fits that option, I think. So if you guys have any other further questions or comments, of course, feel free to leave those down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, thank you to US Gundam Store for their support. Guys, do check the link to their site there down below. Thank you so much for that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.